I still remember the sound of my husband's phone buzzing at 2 a.m. That distinct vibration against the wooden nightstand, a sound that would forever change the course of my life. I was half asleep, reaching for a glass of water when I accidentally knocked his phone to the floor. The screen lit up with her name, Olivia, and beneath it, those 3 little words no wife ever wants to see. I miss you. My fingers trembled as I held his unlocked phone, my breath catching in my throat. I shouldn't look. I shouldn't invade his privacy. That's what the rational part of my brain was screaming. But something else, intuition maybe, pushed me forward. One swipe, and there it was, a 47-second voice note from her. "Hey, baby." Her voice was honey sweet, but with that unmistakable sultry edge. "I can't stop thinking about yesterday. The way you touched me. The way you said you'd leave her after your anniversary trip. 6 more months? That's all we have to wait. I know it's complicated with your businesses merged and everything, but I'm counting down the days until I don't have to share you anymore. I love you in ways she never could." The room started spinning.
Before we get started, if you are just joining us for the first time, welcome to Lamp Stories. We are so excited to have you here with us. Please do well to like, subscribe, and drop a comment with where you are watching from.
6 years of marriage, the renovated dream house we'd poured our savings into, the business we'd built together from nothing, the late nights planning our future, all of it, a carefully constructed lie. I played the message again and again, each time feeling my heart crack a little more until I could physically feel the pain radiating through my chest. But something else was building too, a cold, calculating clarity I'd never experienced before. I didn't wake him, didn't scream, didn't throw things. Instead, I forwarded the voice note to my email, returned his phone to the nightstand, and laid back down beside the stranger I'd married. I stared at the ceiling, mapping out my next moves with surprising detachment, as though my emotions had temporarily disconnected to let my mind work. When morning came, I kissed him goodbye as he left for that big client meeting in Chicago. I smiled when he texted that he'd miss me. I even sent him our usual goodnight text with a heart emoji, all while methodically documenting everything. I maintained the perfect facade of the unsuspecting wife, all while something new and dangerous was forming in the pit of my stomach, a resolve that surprised even me. You see, Marcus wasn't just sleeping with any woman. He was sleeping with Olivia Chambers, his college sweetheart who'd conveniently reappeared in our lives last year when her PR firm partnered with our marketing agency. The same Olivia who'd become my close friend over weekly lunch dates and shopping trips. The same Olivia who'd helped me plan Marcus's surprise birthday party just 2 months ago, holding my hand and promising, "He's so lucky to have you." The same Olivia who was engaged to Parker, Marcus's best friend since business school. The real knife twist? Their wedding was scheduled for 6 months from now, apparently right after Marcus planned to leave me. I was the only fool who didn't see what was happening right under my nose. The lingering glances, the inside jokes, the accidental touches when passing things across the table. I'd rationalized it all away, telling myself I was being paranoid, that Marcus and Olivia were just old friends reconnecting. I'd always prided myself on being strong, independent Abigail Foster, the woman who built a successful digital marketing agency from scratch, the woman who clients described as perceptive and detail-oriented, the woman who could read a room better than anyone. But in that moment, I felt like a hollow shell, completely blind to the betrayal happening in my own life. What they didn't know was that I wasn't just any betrayed wife. I was a woman who'd fought for everything in her life, a woman who documented everything, a woman who never ever forgot a slight. And as I sat there in our kitchen, scrolling through months of their texts that I'd now gained access to, I made myself a promise. Their perfect little fairy tale would have an ending neither of them saw coming. I took a sip of my morning coffee, feeling a strange calm settle over me. This wasn't going to be a typical story of a scorned woman throwing clothes out windows or slashing tires in the night. No, what I had in mind would require patience, precision, and perfect timing. After all, I'd learned from the best. I'd watched 2 master manipulators work their magic for months. Now it was my turn to put on a show. The next 3 months were an Academy Award-worthy performance. I smiled through dinner parties where they both attended. I hugged Olivia when she asked me to be one of her bridesmaids. Because you're like family to me. I discussed wedding plans and nodded sympathetically when she complained about Parker working too much, all while she was sleeping with my husband. What do you think about this venue? She'd ask, showing me photos of the luxury hotel ballroom where she and Parker would exchange vows. The same hotel chain where my investigation had uncovered Marcus and Olivia meeting 17 times over the past year. It's perfect, I'd say, mentally cataloging every detail. The projection system in that ballroom is state-of-the-art. Great for photo slideshows. She'd look at me with those wide, innocent eyes that I now realized were anything but innocent. You're so thoughtful, Abby. I don't know how I'd plan this wedding without you. The audacity was breathtaking. Sometimes I wondered if she actually enjoyed having me involved, if there was some twisted thrill in watching me help design the wedding that would legitimize her position in our social circle while she secretly planned to take my husband. Marcus grew bolder, more careless. Late nights at the office, weekend networking events. The classic excuse playbook of an unfaithful husband. Once, he came home wearing cologne I'd never bought him. When I mentioned it, he claimed it was a sample from the department store. I nodded and made a note of the brand, the same one I'd later find in Olivia's Instagram post featuring her favorite scents to gift. Another time, I found a receipt for a 4-star restaurant downtown from a night he'd supposedly been working late. When I casually mentioned it, he spun an elaborate tale about taking clients there. I watched, almost impressed, as the lies flowed effortlessly from him. 6 years together, and I'd never noticed how easily deception came to him. Or perhaps it was new, a skill developed specifically for Olivia. Each discovery was another dagger. The hotel receipts, the secret credit card, the work calls that came at the same time every night when he stepped outside to get better reception, the lift receipts to her apartment when I was out of town visiting my sister, the private Instagram account where they exchanged coded messages disguised as harmless comments about marketing strategies. I gave this man everything: my youth, my career expertise that helped triple his client base, my unwavering support through his father's illness and the company's rocky first years. And this was my repayment, watching him plan an exit strategy while pretending everything was fine. The breaking point came during our anniversary dinner. 6 years married, and he had the audacity to toast to many more years of happiness. I clinked my glass against his and smiled through tears he mistook for joy. "I've been thinking," he said, reaching across the table to take my hand. "Maybe we should take that trip to Bali you've always talked about. Next spring could be perfect." Next spring, conveniently after he'd already left me. According to the timeline I'd pieced together from his communications with Olivia, the calculated cruelty of it stole my breath. He was making promises he never intended to keep, dangling future dreams while actively dismantling our present. "That sounds wonderful," I replied, squeezing his hand. "I can't wait." That night, after he fell asleep, I found something new on his phone. A video Olivia had sent. There she was, staring into the camera with those perfect cat eyes, her voice soft and intimate. "In exactly 5 months, I'll be walking down the aisle. But my heart will only see you, not him. I'm marrying the wrong man, but it's our only cover until we can be together for real. I've practiced saying I do in the mirror, imagining your face instead of his. This charade is killing me, but I'll do anything to be with you. I recorded this so you'll always remember what we're fighting for. I love you, Marcus. Only you. Forever." My hands shook violently as I forwarded this video to myself. I ran to the bathroom and vomited until there was nothing left but bile and rage. They weren't just having an affair. They weren't just betraying us with physical indiscretions that could be explained away by weakness or momentary passion. They were using Parker, using me, as pawns in their sick game. The calculated nature of it all struck me like a physical blow. They weren't just cheating. They were constructing an elaborate future built on our pain. They discussed it all so casually in their messages. How they'd maintain appearances until after her wedding. How the merger between our companies would place them in the perfect position to push Parker and me out. How they'd use our connections and resources to build their new life together. That night, something broke inside me. The Abigail who believed in second chances died. The woman who emerged from that bathroom was someone else entirely. Someone with nothing left to lose and a score to settle. I gave everything to him, and he discarded me like I was nothing. I whispered to my reflection, tears streaming down my face. But these weren't tears of sadness anymore. They were tears of fury, of determination. I exploded the next morning, but not the way they would have expected. "Is everything okay, Abby?" Marcus asked when he found me calmly drinking coffee and reviewing financial documents at 5 a.m. I looked up with the warmest smile I could muster. "Just getting ahead on work. Actually, I've been thinking, you should take that golf trip with Parker you've been postponing. You both work so hard, and with his wedding coming up, it might be your last guy's trip for a while." The flash of panic in his eyes was almost imperceptible, but I caught it. The thought of spending extended time with the friend he was betraying made him uncomfortable. "Good. I don't know. I've got the Henderson account to worry about, and I can handle Henderson," I interrupted smoothly. "You've seemed so stressed lately. I'm worried about you." I stood and wrapped my arms around his neck, feeling him stiffen slightly before forcing himself to relax. "I just want you to be happy." The irony of those words wasn't lost on either of us, though he didn't know I was in on the joke. As he reluctantly agreed to the trip, I made a mental note of another small victory. The power dynamic had shifted, though he couldn't see it yet. While he thought he was managing me, I was quietly gathering the pieces needed for his undoing. That evening, I called Olivia to catch up, and casually mentioned Marcus's upcoming golf trip with Parker. "Oh, that's wonderful," she exclaimed, though I could hear the slight edge in her voice. "Parker has been saying they need some guy time." "I thought so too," I replied, twisting the knife a little. "And it gives us girls more time to work on your wedding details. I was thinking I could help you with the slideshow for the reception. You know, collecting photos of you and Parker through the years." The momentary silence on the line was satisfying. That would be amazing, Abby. You're too good to me." Too good indeed. The game had officially begun. I needed allies, but carefully chosen ones. My first call was to Rebecca, my college roommate and now a high-powered divorce attorney. I laid everything out for her over lunch: the voice notes, the video, the credit card statements, the elaborate timeline of deception I'd constructed. "You could take him for everything right now," she said, sliding the plate of untouched food away. "With this evidence, the prenup's infidelity clause would absolutely activate in your favor." "That's not enough," I replied, surprising even myself with the coldness in my voice. "This isn't just about Marcus anymore. It's about Olivia too. About the calculated way they both betrayed not just me, but Parker." Rebecca studied me for a long moment before nodding. "What do you need?" "Time, information, and eventually, access to their wedding." She tapped her manicured nails against the table. "The wedding? Abby, are you sure about this? Taking him to court is one thing, but whatever you're planning sounds what? Too dramatic? Too public? Too cruel?" I leaned forward. "They've spent months planning their future happiness on the foundation of our humiliation. Tell me, what would be a proportionate response to that?" Rebecca sighed, but I could see the spark of understanding in her eyes. She'd handled enough divorce cases to know the special kind of betrayal I was facing. "All right, but we do this by the book. Nothing illegal. Nothing that could blow back on you legally." "Of course," I agreed. "I don't want revenge. I want justice. And most importantly, I want the truth exposed." I assembled a small but effective team. Rebecca for legal protection. My brother James, a cybersecurity expert who helped me secure all my evidence and gain access to accounts. And surprisingly, Olivia's assistant Zoe, who'd apparently known about the affair for months and was disgusted by it. "She makes me reschedule Parker constantly to free up time for Marcus," Zoe confided during our secret meeting. She laughs about it afterward, calls Parker her meal ticket to his face and her necessary stepping stone behind his back. Zoe had been accumulating her own evidence, partly out of self-preservation, partly out of genuine concern for Parker. "He's a good guy," she explained. "He doesn't deserve this, and neither do you." She provided me with Olivia's calendar, complete with coded entries for meetings with Marcus. She forwarded emails where Olivia had openly discussed their affair with her closest friend. joking about how Parker was clueless and how I was too busy with work to notice her husband straying. Each new revelation hardened my resolve. This wasn't just an affair born from weakness or passion. This was calculated cruelty from two people who claimed to love us. I meticulously prepared my arsenal: the voice notes, the video confession, hotel receipts, location data proving they were together when they claimed to be elsewhere, credit card statements showing gifts they'd bought each other, screenshots of their text messages planning their future, a future that required using Parker's family connections and my business acumen until the last possible moment. But I needed more than just evidence of their affair. I needed to understand their endgame. Through careful observation and Zoe's inside information, the picture became clear. Marcus and Olivia had a plan to merge our marketing agency with her PR firm after she married Parker, then push both me and Parker out of the businesses we'd built. They'd actually drafted documents I now had copies of, showing how they planned to restructure both companies once they had control. They've been meeting with lawyers, Zoe informed me during one of our clandestine coffee shop meetings, setting up shell companies to funnel money through. Olivia's already moved some of her personal assets. The most chilling discovery came when I accessed Marcus's hidden email account. He and Olivia had discussed their 5-year plan in explicit detail. Parker's family connections will get us access to the Robertson account, Marcus had written. Once we have that, we'll have enough leverage to phase Abby out gradually. She'll never see it coming. They'd discussed which of our mutual friends they would keep in their lives, and which they would discard along with me. They'd even debated whether to invite me to their eventual wedding to keep appearances, or whether it would be too awkward, given how they planned to destroy me professionally. I worked silently, methodically, never giving them reason to suspect. I even helped Olivia choose her wedding flowers, spending a full Saturday at the florist with her, while Marcus was supposedly at a business conference that I knew was actually a weekend at a lakeside cabin with Olivia. These white roses symbolize new beginnings, the florist had explained as Olivia nodded enthusiastically. I'd smiled and taken notes, literal notes, on my phone, adding them to my growing file labeled Wedding Details. 3 weeks before the wedding, I made my final preparations. I met with the hotel's audiovisual team under the guise of planning a special surprise video tribute for the bride and groom. As a bridesmaid and close friend helping with wedding details, no one questioned my access or authority. "We just want to make sure the sound quality is perfect for the video," I explained to the AV manager. "The bride and groom will be so surprised." He had no idea how true that statement would be. I paid special attention to the technical aspects. The exact moment when control of the presentation would shift from the wedding planner's team to my brother James, who would remotely access the system. The timing had to be perfect. We needed the standard wedding video to play long enough to lower everyone's guard before our special presentation began. "We'll have a 5-second window to make the switch," James explained. "After that, it's showtime." I rehearsed what would happen next dozens of times in my mind. The faces, the reactions, the fallout. I knew it would be brutal, but so was what they had planned for Parker and me. Parker was the wild card in all this. Did he deserve to learn the truth in such a public way? After weeks of deliberation, I arranged to meet him for coffee 2 days before the wedding. I needed to look him in the eyes to make my final decision. "You seem happy," I said, studying his face as he talked about the final wedding preparations. "I am," he replied, but there was something hollow in his eyes. Though sometimes I wonder if Olivia is. She's been so distant lately. Probably just wedding stress. "Cold feet?" I suggested gently. "Maybe." He stirred his coffee absently. "She's been working late a lot, taking calls in other rooms. Says it's all wedding vendor stuff, but..." He trailed off, then forced a laugh. "Listen to me," sounding paranoid. "It's natural to have doubts before such a big commitment," I offered, hating myself a little for the charade. "Did you have doubts? Before marrying Marcus?" My heart twisted. "No," I said honestly. "I never doubted him for a second." My heart broke for Parker. He knew something was wrong but couldn't place it. In that moment, I made my choice. Some truths needed to be witnessed to be believed, and some betrayals were so complete that only a complete reckoning would suffice. The night before their wedding, I couldn't sleep. Not from doubt, but from a strange, calm certainty. Tomorrow, everything would change. Tomorrow, the carefully constructed house of cards would collapse. Tomorrow, truth would have its day. Ready or not, I whispered to the ceiling. Tomorrow, we all face reality. The Waldorf Hotel ballroom was a vision of white roses and crystal chandeliers, 200 guests in formal attire, mingling and admiring the elegant decor that had cost Parker's family a small fortune. A string quartet playing softly in the corner, providing the soundtrack to what everyone believed was a perfect union of two people in love. And me, in my rose gold bridesmaid dress, smiling as I helped Olivia with her veil just hours earlier. "I'm so nervous," she'd confessed, and I'd wondered if it was guilt or merely the fear of getting caught that caused the tremor in her hands. "Everything will be exactly as it should be," I'd assured her, fastening the final pearl button on her gown. The double meaning of my words gave me a small, cold satisfaction. She'd grabbed my hands then, her eyes welling with tears that I once would have believed were genuine emotion. "Abby, I don't know what I'd do without you. You've been such a rock through all of this." I'd squeezed her hands back, maintaining my performance until the very end. That's what friends are for, right? To be there during life's most important moments. The ceremony had gone flawlessly. Parker, handsome in his tuxedo, had watched Olivia walk down the aisle with genuine love in his eyes. Olivia had indeed practiced her "I do." It sounded perfectly rehearsed as she pledged her life and loyalty to Parker. Marcus sat 7 rows back, his face impressively neutral as his lover married his best friend. I sat on the bride's side, looking appropriately emotional, dabbing at tears that weren't entirely fake, though they weren't shed for the reasons everyone assumed. The reception was in full swing now. Champagne flowed. The first dances had concluded. Dinner had been served. An elaborate 5-course meal that Parker had proudly told me he'd chosen specifically to showcase Olivia's favorite foods. The irony wasn't lost on me that Marcus had ordered the exact same dishes during a private dinner with Olivia last month, according to the credit card statement I'd found. It was time for the toasts and wedding video presentation. My heart pounded as I slipped away to the back of the room where Zoe waited by the AV booth, right on schedule. "Are you sure about this?" she whispered, her face pale. "Absolutely," I replied with a calm I didn't entirely feel. They made their choice. Now they face the consequences. And now, the DJ announced, a special video tribute from the bride and groom's closest friends. The lights dimmed. The massive screen descended. The professionally edited wedding video began playing. Beautiful shots of Olivia and Parker, their engagement photos, childhood pictures. Guests awed at the touching moments, raised glasses at particularly sweet images of the couple. 3 minutes in, exactly as planned, the video transitioned to what the guests assumed was the next segment. Instead, the screen filled with Olivia's face in intimate close-up, the confession video she'd sent to Marcus. "In exactly 5 months, I'll be walking down the aisle, but my heart will only see you, not him. I'm marrying the wrong man." The room fell into stunned silence. Then came the voice notes, playing clearly through the high-end sound system. The text messages displayed in giant font for everyone to read. The hotel receipts, the business takeover plans, each piece of evidence more damning than the last, each revealing the true nature of their relationship and their plans for Parker and me. I watched from my position at the back of the room, observing as the truth landed like a bomb in the center of their perfect day. Olivia's face drained of color, her hand flying to her mouth in horror. Marcus frantically looking around for the source of the presentation, his eyes wild with panic. Parker rising slowly from his seat at the head table, his expression transforming from confusion to recognition to devastation. The video continued relentlessly, their own words condemning them, their own plans exposed, their own cruelty laid bare for everyone to witness. Before security could reach the AV booth, the final slide appeared. Simple white text on a black background. "The truth hurts, but lies destroy. Parker, you deserved better. We both did." The chaos that followed was both terrible and vindicating. Olivia screaming that it was all lies, then changing tactics when confronted with her own voice, her own words. Marcus attempting to approach me, only to be blocked by my brother and 3 of Parker's cousins who had quickly figured out what was happening. Olivia's father demanding the music be turned up to drown out the commotion, but it was too late. Everyone had seen everything. Guests were standing now, some heading for the exits, others frozen in shock, others filming with their phones. Parker's mother was being consoled by her sister. Olivia's friends gathered around her in a protective circle as she alternated between sobbing and furiously scanning the crowd for me. I made my way calmly through the shocked crowd to Parker, who stood frozen in the center of the ballroom. "I'm sorry it had to be this way," I said quietly, "but you needed to know before you legally tied yourself to her." He looked at me with eyes full of pain and gratitude. "How long have you known?" "Long enough. There's more you need to see." I handed him a flash drive. Financial records, business plans. They were going to push us both out after the merger. His hand closed around the drive, knuckles white. Was any of it real? Any of it at all? I had no answer that wouldn't hurt him further. Before I could respond, Olivia broke through her protective circle of friends, heading straight for us. "Parker, baby, please," she begged, mascara streaming down her face. "It's not what it looks like. She's manipulated those messages. We heard your voice, Olivia," Parker said quietly. "I saw your face. I recognized the hotel rooms." She turned her fury on me then. "You psychotic crazy. You've ruined everything." I turned to her with perfect calm. "No, Olivia. You did that all by yourself. I just provided the spotlight." Marcus finally broke through the crowd, grabbing my arm. "Abby, we need to talk about this privately. This is completely inappropriate. Like planning to steal my business was appropriate?" I pulled my arm away. "Or discussing which of my clients you'd take with you. Don't worry, Marcus. I've already filed for divorce, and every single person in our industry has received copies of your plans. Good luck finding clients after this." The most unexpected moment came when Parker's grandmother, a tiny woman with enormous dignity, walked directly to Olivia and removed the family heirloom necklace from her neck. "My grandson works too hard to have his life stolen by thieves," she announced loudly enough for nearby tables to hear. Olivia clutched at her throat, eyes wide. "Mrs. Reynolds, please." "I've seen enough," the elderly woman stated firmly, turning back to her grandson. "Parker, your grandfather and I are leaving. Join us when you're ready." She walked away with remarkable poise, the emerald necklace clutched tightly in her hand. Security arrived, not to stop my presentation as Marcus and Olivia hoped, but to escort them out at the request of Parker's father, who had taken control of the situation with remarkable speed. "This wedding is over," he announced to the guests. "Please collect your belongings. We apologize for the unexpected turn of events." The final image I have of that night is Marcus and Olivia being ushered through separate doors, their carefully constructed future disintegrating in real time, while Parker's father announced to the guests that the marriage ceremony would be legally invalidated immediately. As I walked out, Parker caught up with me in the lobby. "You could have told me privately," he said, his voice raw. "Would you have believed me without seeing it for yourself?" I asked gently. He was quiet for a moment. "No, I was completely blind. So was I. For longer than you." He nodded slowly. "What happens now?" I smiled for the first time that evening. A real smile. "Now? We rebuild. Separately but free from their schemes. They wanted our businesses, our connections, our trust. And now they have nothing. Thank you," he said finally, "for having the courage to do what I couldn't see needed doing." Arts! As I walked to my car, my phone buzzed with a text from Rebecca. "First meeting with Marcus's lawyer tomorrow at 9. We have them cornered on every front." I looked back at the beautiful hotel, at the dream wedding that had turned into a revelation. Some might call what I did cruel, public, unnecessary. But some truths need witnesses. Some betrayals are so complete that only a complete reckoning will do. And sometimes, justice looks exactly like a bride and groom facing the consequences of their actions on what should have been their perfect day. 6 months later, I sat on the terrace of my new apartment overlooking the river. The divorce was finalized faster than anyone expected. Marcus's lawyers advised him to settle quickly once they saw the evidence. I kept the company, most of our assets, and walked away with my head held high. The emotional healing took longer than the legal proceedings. Some nights, I still woke up reaching for someone who was never truly there. Some mornings I stared at my reflection, wondering how I could have been so blind for so long. But those moments grew fewer and farther between as I reclaimed my life, piece by piece. I threw myself into transforming the business, rebranding it completely under my sole leadership. Clients who had initially been unsure about the scandal eventually returned when they saw the quality of my work hadn't changed. If anything, it had improved without the compromise of Marcus's mediocre ideas that I'd always tactfully enhanced. The business world has a short memory when it comes to personal scandals, especially when there's profit to be made. Within 4 months, our client roster was stronger than ever, and I'd hired 3 new talented associates who brought fresh energy to the team. We moved to new offices, bright, open spaces without the shadows of betrayal lurking in every corner. Olivia and Marcus's carefully constructed house of cards collapsed spectacularly. Her PR firm lost major clients once the story spread throughout the industry. No amount of spin could fix a reputation so thoroughly damaged. The irony wasn't lost on anyone that a public relations expert couldn't manage her own public relations crisis. Marcus tried to start over in another city, but the digital trail of his betrayal followed him. Last I heard, they were still together, bound less by love now than by the shared experience of public disgrace and dwindling options. They deserve each other, Rebecca told me over dinner one evening. 2 selfish people who'll eventually destroy each other when there's no one else left to use. I wasn't so sure. Part of me wondered if they might actually thrive in their shared notoriety, bonded by the drama of how they came together. But I found, increasingly, that I didn't care enough to wonder about them for long. Parker and I developed an unexpected friendship, 2 survivors of the same shipwreck, helping each other navigate back to shore. We met for coffee every few weeks, comparing notes on healing and rebuilding. He'd taken a sabbatical from work, traveled through Southeast Asia for 2 months, finding himself, and returned with a clarity I envied. "I almost thanked you today," he said during one of these meetings. "Isn't that strange? I almost thanked you for the most humiliating moment of my life. But you didn't actually get married," I pointed out. "I had to divorce him." "True. You got the worse end of the deal." He paused, stirring his latte thoughtfully. "Do you regret doing it so publicly?" I considered this question carefully, as I had many times before. "No. Private betrayals deserve public consequences. They wanted to use us as props in their performance. It was only fair they became props in mine." He nodded slowly. "My therapist says I should be angry with you too, for not telling me privately first, for making my pain into a spectacle. But I can't find that anger. All I feel is relief that I didn't marry her." "Your therapist sounds wise," I admitted. "Maybe I should have handled it differently. Maybe. But then again, would I have truly believed it without seeing it with my own eyes? Without hearing her voice saying those things? I'd spent months ignoring red flags, making excuses for her behavior. The business thrived without Marcus. I rebranded, refocused, and discovered I had always been the true creative force anyway. My new marketing campaigns won 2 industry awards, and a major business publication did a feature on women rebuilding after personal and professional setbacks. I declined to discuss the specifics of my divorce in the interview, focusing instead on the business strategies that had helped me recover and grow. The high road was sometimes a lonely path, but it had its own rewards. Last week, I received a small package. Inside was the flash drive I had given Parker at the wedding, along with a note. "Don't need this anymore. Finally stopped looking backward. Thank you for the harsh gift of truth." I understood perfectly. There comes a point where you stop needing evidence of someone's betrayal, where you stop needing to remind yourself why you're better off without them, where the pain transforms into something else. Not quite gratitude, but a profound appreciation for the bullet you ultimately dodged. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd never seen that notification on Marcus's phone. Would I have lived years more in blissful ignorance? Would I have continued building a life with someone who saw me as nothing more than a stepping stone? The thought makes me shudder. People often ask if I'm dating again. The answer is not yet, but soon. I'm learning to trust my instincts again. Learning that my worth isn't determined by someone else's inability to see it. Learning that I'm stronger than I ever knew, not despite the betrayal, but because of how I chose to rise above it. Yesterday, I received a wedding invitation from one of the guests who witnessed the spectacle at Olivia and Parker's non-wedding. Her note read, "After seeing what happened at the last wedding I attended, I promise this one will be drama-free. Unless you're bringing a projector." It made me laugh out loud. The first time I genuinely laughed about any of it. The truth is, I don't need projectors or public revelations anymore. I don't need grand gestures of revenge or justice. What happened that night at the Waldorf was never about humiliating them. It was about refusing to let them humiliate Parker and me any further. It was about shining a light on the truth before more damage could be done. There's a freedom in having your worst fears confirmed. The wondering, the doubt, the second-guessing. All of that is worse than even the most painful truth. Once you know where you stand, you can decide where to go next. And I've decided to go forward, to build something new and authentic, to surround myself with people whose loyalty isn't contingent on what they can take from me. As the sun sets over the river, casting golden light across my new home, I raise my glass in a private toast. Not to revenge, not to justice, but to truth. The kind that cuts like a knife, but ultimately sets you free. And to the woman I've become, stronger, wiser, and finally, authentically my own. Some say living well is the best revenge. I say living truthfully is the best redemption. The truth may have been my weapon, but healing has become my victory.